We're now recording and we're live.
Great. Katie, can you please start us off with roll call?
Yes, Mr. Badger,
Here.
Mr. Bleefeld,
I'm here.
Mr. Frank,
Here.
Mrs. Ginsburg, here. Mrs. Heyman, here. Ms. Karinikis, Mr. Stoloff,
Here.
Mrs. Walsh, here. Mr. Antonio,
Here.
Alex Gandaya.
Here.
We have 8 present, 1 absent, and 1 student board rep this evening.
Okay, thank you. It's time for the Pledge of Allegiance. And can you stand and face the flag? I pledge United States of America, Republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone to the September 27th, 2021 work session of the Wissahickon School District's Board of Directors. Tonight, we will review action items, which we will formally vote on at our next board meeting on Monday, October 4th. And in addition, we have several presentations and important updates. I should also note that the board met in executive session earlier this evening to discuss legal and collective bargaining matters. Item 2 on our agenda is the list of meetings since late August, while item 3 lists upcoming meetings through the end of October. And we'll move on to presentations. And for that, I'll hand it over to Jim.
Thank you. The first presentation is an introduction of 5 new district leaders. And this has been put off a little bit, and some of these folks have already been here for a while. So actually, all 5 are already in place. And we will start with the 2 people who are here live with us tonight, which is the first of whom is Dr. Onyewe Dewan. And she is our assistant superintendent. You've seen her face and you've heard from her already at these meetings, but technically a newbie as of February. So we certainly welcome Dr. Dewan to the fold. And also here is Miss Danielle Hay, who is our new Director of Human Resources. And Danielle possibly picked the most difficult time to start in a human resources job in July. And she's been working furiously to get everything in order. And at the beginning of a school year, as you might imagine, that is a tall order. So welcome to you, Danielle. And then with us on the screen are our other 3 district leaders who have joined us since we've been together. The first of whom is Ms. Keziah Latour. Keziah, hello, welcome. You may have seen her in some committee meetings, and Keziah has already been visiting schools in her role as Director of Equity and Cultural Responsiveness. And we look forward to having her in many board meetings, helping us understand how to get better and understanding all the ins and outs of things related to all matters equity. Our 4th district leader is actually from within. Those first 3 came to us from different places. Dr. Dewan from Phoenixville, Ms. Hay from Owen J. Roberts, and Ms. Latour from Radnor. Then we stole 2 people from internal and decided that they are going to be district leaders. The first of whom is Ms. Sue Kanapka. And Sue's there. She is the principal, or has been principal of Lower Gwinnett Elementary School for since January. Is that right, Sue? I think so. Yeah, okay. All right. It seems like since January of 2001 rather than 2021, but in any event, she has hit the ground running and really taken that school by storm, which I knew she would. And last is Miss Angela Farlow. And I believe Angela is with us on Zoom somewhere. And Angela is the new principal of Bluebell Elementary School. And she's been there all of about 1.5 months. And I'm sure in her mind, it feels like 1.5 decades. But she's really doing a fantastic job there. And we certainly welcome Angela, although we knew of her and we knew of all of her potential. She's in a great place now and a really good fit over at Bluebell. So those are our 5 district leaders, and we welcome them all.
How about a round of applause for our new district leaders? Although Jim, especially when we were talking about Onyewe as an example, I feel like she's been here for a couple of years now. So including her in the 5 new district leaders category seems like a stretch, but I guess technically you're correct. And Danielle feels like she's been here for at least 6 months, but yeah, exactly. But thank you and welcome to all of our new district leaders. It's exciting to get some new talent and fresh blood into the mix to our school district. Jim, was there a new staff introduction?
Our next presentation is our new staff introductions video. As Dr. Crisfield mentioned, we have been very busy in HR. We've hired over 84 staff this school year. So, and that's hiring and onboarding. So it's been pretty busy. So, and before we get started with the video, I want to say a very special thank you to Jen Morehouse and our communications department for putting this together. She interviewed many staff that you'll see, and it's a really fun video. So.
Hi, my name is Danielle Hay. I'm your new Human Resources Director. I'm super excited to be here at Wissahickon, and I can't wait to meet all of you.
Hello, WIS Nation. I'm Keziah Latour, Director of Equity and Cultural Responsiveness. I'm found at the Central Office Building, and I'm looking forward to a tremendous year.
Hi, my name is Katie Maas, and I'm the Supervisor of Curriculum, and I work in our central office. Looking forward to a great year with Wissahickon.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Mastrosante. I'm the new benefits admin over here at Central Office, and I'm excited to start the school year with lots of new employees and help all the current ones.
Hi, my name is Naira Garnett. I'm the payroll specialist here at Wissahickon School District. I'm excited to be joining the team, and I look forward to meeting everyone.
Hi, WIS Nation. I'm Sarah Banazinski, and I'm going to be teaching 2nd grade at Bluebell Elementary this year. I am so excited to be part of the district and to meet my students and their families.
Hi, everyone. My name is Casey Levin, and I will be teaching 3rd grade at Bluebell Elementary this year. I am so excited to meet everybody in my class and my parents and the rest of the staff, and just looking forward to a great school year.
Hello everyone, my name is Melanie Pulaski and I will be teaching at Bluebell Elementary School, and I will be the visual arts teacher for all of the students there. I am looking forward to getting to know all the students and staff and to create some really amazing, inspiring pieces of artwork this year.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jordan Cohen. I will be teaching kindergarten at Lower Gwinnett Elementary School, and I can't wait for an amazing year.
Hi everyone, my name is Zara Dugan and I am going to be teaching 2nd grade at Lower Gwinnett Elementary. I'm so excited to be a part of the Wissahickon School District, and I can't wait to meet all of my students and families.
Well, hello, my name is Michelle Montiel and I will be teaching 3rd grade at Lower Gwinnett Elementary. I am very excited to get back into the classroom, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Hi, WIS Nation. I'm Jen Klingerman. I'm going to be teaching 5th grade at Lower Gwinnett Elementary. Looking forward to a great year.
Hi, WIS Nation. My name is Brenna Waters. I am so excited to be teaching 1st grade at Lower Gwinnett Elementary this year, and I am so excited to join not only the school district, but the community. Can't wait for the school year to start, and see you then.
Hey WIS Nation, I'm Jared Verratti. I'm the new art teacher at Shady Grove and Lower Gwinnett Elementary School. I'm so excited to get started this year. We're going to be making some pretty incredible, awesome art projects. I'm so excited to meet everyone in the district.
Hi, Wissahickon. My name is Sydney Lamoureux, and I'm going to be teaching music this year at Lower Gwinnett, Shady Grove, and Bluebell. I am so very excited to make music with the students in Wissahickon School District, and I can't wait to be a Trojan.
Hi everyone, my name is Brianna Carson and I will be the new music teacher at Stony Creek Elementary. This year I'm really looking forward to making beautiful music with all of our wonderful students at Stony Creek and having a great year.
Hi everyone, my name is Katie McCarthy and I'll be teaching 2nd grade at Stony Creek Elementary, and I'm very excited to be part of the community.
Hi, everybody. My name is Allie Monahan. I will be teaching second grade at Stony Creek Elementary School this year. I am looking forward to a wonderful school year.
Hi, my name is Nicole Tecci. I'm a fourth grade teacher at Stony Creek Elementary, and I'm looking forward to a fun, fabulous school year.
Hello, WIS Nation. My name is Desmond Daniels, and I'll be teaching second grade at Shady Grove Elementary. I'm so excited to be here in the Wissahickon community, and I'm looking forward to a great year.
Hi, Wissahickon. My name is Nicole DeTore, and I will be teaching second grade at Shady Grove. I'm looking forward to a great year and meeting all of my new students.
Hi, Wissahickon. My name is Lexi Watt, and I will be a long-term sub in third grade at Shady Grove. I am so excited to start the school year and meet everyone.
Hi, Wissahickon. My name is Jenny Stokely. I will be a special education teacher at the high school and the middle school. I'm so excited to join Wissahickon School District and meet my students and my colleagues and to have a wonderful year.
Hey, Wissahickon, I'm Sarah Horwitz. I'll be teaching French at the middle school. I'm a graduate of WIS, so I'm really excited to be back, and I'm looking forward to getting to know everybody.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marla John. I'm going to be at the middle school teaching 7th grade science, and I'm so excited to be joining WIS Nation.
Hi, my name is Christina Leo. I will be teaching 7th grade ELA at Wissahickon Middle School. I am very excited to be here as a part of the Wissahickon community and get to know all of my students. Looking forward to a great year.
Hi, my name is Allie O'Donnell. I'm a speech therapist that's going to be working in the elementary and middle schools, and I'm super excited to be a part of the Wissahickon community and get started.
Hi, WIS Nation. I'm Julie Piscadlo. I will be teaching 7th grade science at the middle school, and I can't wait to meet all my students and work with you this year.
Hi, WIS Nation. My name is Jerry Wilcox. I am very excited this year to be a 6th grade teacher at the middle school, and I'm really looking forward to meeting all my students and the families for the upcoming school year.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tara Colantuno. I'm going to be a health and physical education teacher at the high school. I'm so excited to be part of WIS Nation and to be part of such a great community with lots of school spirit. I'm excited for the year.
Hi, WIS Nation. I am Matt Reed. I will be teaching history at the high school for 11th grade. I am so excited to be back and to meet all the students I met in previous years. Look forward to doing that. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Holly Schneider. I'm going to teach Spanish at the high school this year, and I'm really excited to get to know all of my students. Adios.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. It's no help having her in here. I'm giggling.
Hi. Oh, sorry. We can do this as many times as we need to. My bad.
All right.
One more take.
Hi, my name is Katie Maz, and I work at, no, sorry. You have to do.
It's okay.
I was going to say work at Central. Okay.
I think the first one was good.
Totally up to you.
I'm not good at this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I might not get it the first time, but
don't worry. That happens a lot.
Okay. The rest was so good. Okay.
Yep.
all right.
Okay. Like right now, like just like start like talking.
Yeah.
Okay. Think I'm ready. Oh, should I just go? Okay.
Okay. Whenever you are ready.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not ready. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm very excited to be, well, can I start again?
Hi, my name is Naira Garnett. I'm the payroll specialist. No, I don't even know what my position is. Okay. Hi, my name is Naira Garnett. I'm the payroll specialist, and I'll probably be your favorite person because I pay you.
Great, wonderful,
Fun, fabulous,
amazing, tremendous, really amazing, inspiring.
Pretty incredible.
Super excited.
So excited to be part of WIS Nation.
Very excited. So excited to be part of the district.
I'm so excited to be back.
So excited.
Really excited to get to know all of my students. Super excited.
So excited. So excited to meet everybody.
Excited to start the school year.
So very excited.
So excited to be here.
Very excited. Very excited to get back into the classroom.
I'm very excited to be part of the community.
So excited.
So excited to get started.
So excited to be joining WIS Nation.
Right, so as you can tell, we're all very excited. That was a theme. For our next presentation tonight, I want to introduce those who have reached tenure status. So tonight, I have the pleasure of recognizing 10 teachers who have been tenure in the Wood School District this week. Tenure is a meaningful milestone in a teaching professional's career, only awarded for completes a I'm going to pause. Test. Okay, I'll try again. Nope. All right, we'll try this one more time. No feedback. Great. I'm going to start over. Tonight I have the pleasure of recognizing teachers who have achieved tenure in the Wissahickan School District this school year. Tenure is a meaningful milestone in a teaching professional's career and is only awarded once the teacher completes a strenuous 3-year probationary period. During this time, they are formally observed 4 times each school year and formally evaluated once each semester during this 3-year period. Not to mention all the informal visits from the principal and other administration during this time period. A teacher's classroom performance is the primary consideration in this tenure decision. And the teachers we are recognizing this evening have demonstrated evidence of their consistent and effective performance in the Wissahickan School District as educators thus far. Next slide. So this evening we are formally recognizing the following employees. Jessica Murphy, a first grade teacher at Lower Gwinnett. Taylor Beck, third grade teacher, also at Lower Gwinnett. Brittany Patterson, second grade teacher at Stony Creek. Kara Barris, music teacher at Shady Grove. Annie McCullough, speech therapist at Shady Grove. Carla Percivat, kindergarten teacher at Shady Grove. Next slide. We have Emily Berger, an art teacher at our middle school. Devin Meal, language arts teacher, also at our middle school. Lauren Hindi, a world language teacher at our high school. And finally, Angela Pasadis, our language arts teacher at our high school as well. On behalf of the school board and administration, congratulations on this accomplishment. We wish you all continued success in this district. Please join me in a round of applause for our newly tenured professionals listening online tonight. Hopefully they were able to attend on Zoom. Next year, we will have everyone in person.
Thanks, Danielle. I also wanted to say we were remiss in not giving a round of applause to all of our new staff that were introduced through that great video. So a round of applause for all of them. And also a round of applause for Danielle and her team for bringing us 84 new staff hires. That's quite an accomplishment. Okay, so I think then in terms of presentation, that takes us to.
Wait, did we do the monthly highlights?
Yep, right. So next we're going to hear from our student board rep, Alex Gindea. Oh, is Carly here as well too? Great. And Carly Meltzer with some monthly Wissahickan High School highlights. Student board reps?
Yep, thank you. I just want to start by saying that the school year is off to a great start. And on behalf of all the students, we're all happy to be back together and in the building finally. And for the highlights in the beginning of the school year, Westlink held a 9th grade freshman orientation to help all the upcoming freshmen assimilate back into high school. And I think this was a great experience. I was a part of this, and all the freshmen, you can tell, really benefited from this. We gave them a tour and shared information, and you could tell this really helped them all. Also, next week, we start our homecoming festivities. So Friday, is everything good? Okay. Friday, we have our homecoming game, and that entire week, we have a spirit week. We have some fun games planned, some 3v3 basketball tournaments, some tailgating, and some powered puff flag football. So next week's all fun.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute, but I want to add to that and just say, like Alex just said, we're all so excited to be back in the school, and the overwhelming support from the staff has been incredible. Teachers have been so supportive, at least I can say, testify to this, so supportive, and it's just been so exciting to be back. And to add on to those highlights, National Honor Society officers have been finalized, and in the next few weeks, 11th and 12th graders should keep an eye out on Schoology for invitations for acceptance into Wissahickon National Honor Society. And I'd also like to touch on the 9/11 Memorial Concert held by Wissahickon on Monday, September 13th. The students, sorry if you can hear my dog, the students under the direction of Mr. Conahan did an incredible job in honoring those lives lost, the heroes of 9/11 and their families. And finally, our Wissahickon sports teams have already accomplished so much in just the beginning stages of the season. Field hockey is off to an amazing start with back-to-back wins, and the boys and girls cross-country team competed in their first invitational in 2 years at Abington on September 11th, returning with 16 medals. And like Alex said, homecoming is coming up, and I'm so excited to get the school together and show our school unity and spirit. And I just think it'll be great to have all the community members together.
Thank you, Carly and Alex. Questions or comments for Alex or Carly from board members?
Yeah,
Ron.
I want to ask our two student reps. It's someday we'll actually see you in the flesh. It's like seeing you in the squares is like 18 months have never happened. But since you're back in school every day, could I ask you briefly, what's the biggest adjustment you've had to make now that you're in school every day? And that includes having to get up early enough to get to school in the morning.
I can answer that. I would say school's back to normal, and it's kind of like nothing ever happened. It's kind of like we just jumped back into our normal lives. So biggest adjustment would just be leaving my house. I was virtual all during COVID, so just be leaving your house. But as far as the school goes, our school schedule is all the same. You wouldn't even tell besides us wearing masks. So everything's pretty much back to normal, and it's all great.
I'd say that getting to school is a big one, especially this year because I have my license. So I'm responsible for getting myself to school. And so I'm working on that. I'm always there on time, but it's waking up a little bit earlier that I'm working on. And I'd say it's all good adjustments, at least for me personally. I think that being back in school has just benefited me and my mental health so much. I'm so much happier. And I'm working on traveling through the knuckle in the Wissahickon High School to get through classes. I'm not used to so many students being there. And so now I'm like getting my way through the knuckle. But again, it's all been great. And it feels like we haven't missed all of those months.
Thank you very much for your heartfelt responses. And I'm really glad that things are working this year. And it should be an exciting year in a far better way than it was last year. That kind of excitement we don't want to have again. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you, Carly and Alex. It's fantastic that we have the entire school district back in person every day, 5 days a week. A great accomplishment, and I'm glad you guys are having a good start to the school year so far. All right, so that takes us to the first public comment period of our agenda, where we will hear comments on agenda items only. And agenda items are topics that are listed on tonight's agenda. Comments on other school-related topics not on our agenda should be held until the second public comment period later on this evening. And let's see, we're going to alternate in-person speakers with speakers on Zoom. and you will have up to 3 minutes to speak. And I will be strictly enforcing that time limit. And when you're called to speak, please be sure to state your name, municipality of residence, and topic. Please note that it is the board's practice not to engage in back and forth dialogue with speakers. And with that, I don't think we have any in-person speakers scheduled for the first public comment period. So we'll take a look over at Zoom if there are any hands raised.
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, great. So then with that, I'm going to move on to the board president report. So the board president report, there are no informational items this evening, but we have 2 action items for discussion tonight and then voting next week. The first one is district goals and ongoing priorities for the 2021 to 2022 school year per document 6-1. So that draft set of district goals and ongoing priorities is in your packets. And what I wanted to do was see if there are any comments, questions, or some discussion from board members about those proposed goals and priorities. If not, I can start with one. Okay, since no one's jumping to it, I have a comment regarding number 1, which is under the academic achievement area. It's regarding later school start times. And the language of the draft as written makes reference to examining options. And my understanding would be that the possible options for later school start times would be exploring things like, is it a later school start time just for the high school? Or is it high school and the middle school? And also, what's the impact on elementary schools? Is that a fair assessment, Jim, when we're talking options?
Yes, certainly. There's the concept is pretty simple. Schools start later so that the research about when students sleep can be honored. The devil is in the details, and so options include possibly flipping the times where elementary start earlier and secondary start later, or sliding everybody later, essentially the same arrangement we have now. There are transportation options to consider. Right now, we have essentially a double-tiered system, and that could change or could stay the same. And then, of course, there's all the options for after school and before school needs.
Okay, thanks. That's what I assumed with the language. And then the other piece was that there's a phrase in that same statement that says, should the decision be to make any changes? And I guess this is a question for my fellow board members. We've had discussions about later school start times off and on for the past probably like 2 years, I would say. And the way this goal is written, it makes it seem like there's still, I guess, doubt whether or not we are serious in implementing later school start times. But as a group, are we okay with this kind of language, or do we want something more definitive regarding the implementation of later school start times? And it's something just for discussion with my fellow board members. Any thoughts?
I'll chime in for a
Sure.
second. So I think my personal opinion is that it should be, it should read something along the lines of implementing the new start times in 2023 period, and not have the doubt at the end of it.
Other thoughts? Ronnie?
I agree with Tracy. I think we're just cut out the doubt. We're going to have new start times in September 2023.
Right. Ron, this has been a topic of interest of yours.
Right, and I would say that the question is no longer if, but when and how.
Right.
And, of course, that is the most difficult part of it, the pulling this together. And I was just wondering, a question occurs to me: if we change our schedule, what does this do for the students that we bus to non-Wissahickon schools? Do they have to dance to our tune, or do we have to dance to theirs?
So we would work with whatever the public, non-public school would be. There's a little bit of give, meaning if they had an 8:30 start, can we arrive at 7 o'clock? No, but could we arrive at 8:10? Yes. So I think we can work with the non-public schools, but generally we do try to provide equal service to our own. So generally try to arrive at a reasonable time frame.
Thank you.
So would any board members have an objection to us amending that statement by just essentially striking the piece that says, should the decision be to make any changes for when we vote next week?
Joe, I have a question.
Yeah, Paul.
So my understanding of the process that we were undertaking is that the first step would be understanding and researching the options, researching what the implications of such a practice would be on transportation, on all the other things that were mentioned. And that would be the preliminary step. The second step would be getting the public input because this won't affect all families the same. There are some that have challenges with work schedules and other things that may not coincide with the different school schedule. And so really investigating what all of that means and what the public input would be is an important part of this process. And if that's the case, before we start to change policy and make recommendations like that, I think we really need to get additional input before we do so.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think the goal as stated contemplates, and there's an expectation that we will do that. We're talking about implementation for September 2023. So that's not next school year, but the school year after. And I think what myself and I think most board members are expecting is that the administration as well as us will do a good faith effort to gather input and feedback from the community and everyone who's going to be affected by this in determining the details of how we're going to do this. But again, it's less of if we're going to do it, but it's more about how we're going to go about doing it. And in determining that how, it's absolutely crucial that we get input from the community and affected stakeholders.
So given that, my suggestion would be before we make an affirmative statement would be to gather that input. Otherwise, we're making a statement without the input, and that, to me, that's counterproductive.
Okay. So then, Paul, do I gather that you would prefer to keep the language of that goal as is when we vote next week?
That would be my suggestion. We have plenty of time to do that if the input comes back as we expect it would in favor of this effort. And if this is a 23 effort, we have a lot of time to change that language. I don't see the benefit of changing it before we get input.
Actually, I have a comment as well. I actually feel that the language should be at the latest by September 2023, if not earlier. I mean, we were just in a transportation discussion, how we're having that as an issue, and changing up our bell schedule may be a really practical way to kind of overcome that issue. So I think this is something that should be front and center. And I think we need to take all things into consideration.
Okay, so that's option C. So before we heard from Paul and Zephy, it seemed like there was some support from myself, Tracy, and Ronnie, and possibly Ron, in
yes, Ron,
in striking that the phrase "should the decision be to make any changes." In essence, being a little bit more definitive about the target implementation of later school start times, but not how or any of the details. But are there other board members who feel more strongly about the proposed language per Paul, which is essentially keep it the same, or Zephy, something along the lines of no later than September 2023?
I do have a question based on what Zephy said.
Yeah.
if we go by the language of no later than, what type of pressure does that put on everybody to implement it? It can't be done overnight. The question is, how long will it take to implement such a program? While we may have the best of intention to get it done by a certain date, will we be capable of doing that is the question.
Yeah, and I think we've previously heard from the administration that September 2022, which is the start of the next school year, is not a realistic target timeframe for implementation of later school start times. So that's why I would not be in favor of saying no later than, because we've heard already that it's not realistic anyway, and it could set sort of false or improper expectations with the school community about it.
And I presume then we're not intending to start this mid-year. It's going to start with a school year. And if we can't do it 2022, then 2023 is the start time at the very earliest.
Yes.
And I would just add, the reason that I think that we should take out the should be is because I think parents need to know that this is going to happen. We just don't need to know the details of how or what it will look like, but it is going to change. I think if we leave the should be in there, then parents might think, well, maybe it won't happen. They're just talking about it. I think if we're more definitive with that part of it, that the parents will understand that this is something that is coming for the September 2023 school year. It will look different. We just don't know what the different is right now.
Amy?
What if we talk to all the stakeholders and we determine it's not possible? We're not able to change the start times for whatever reason. Maybe it's transportation. We can't change the start time. What if there are reasons we can't do it then? So we're saying right now we're committing, we definitely are doing it.
So it says we have the intent of making all the necessary changes and implementing the new start times in September 2023. So I think like if something unforeseen happens, I mean, our intent doesn't change our current intent right now, right? The way I look at it is that we've been sort of beating around the bush with later school start times or debating it off and on for the last few years. And the previous discussions have been more around if we should do it at all. But I think it seemed like to me that several months ago, we as a board, at least there was some general consensus, if not unanimity, that it's less about if we do it at all, but more about when and how we do it, which again, we want to get input from the community on that. Now, in terms of us not being able to do it, I guess it's possible, but since there are several school districts that have already implemented it, I'm skeptical that there would be something that would say we could not do it, other than, you know, potentially a lack of will, right? So, but again, it's the language I state is that that's our intent, and I think it's important about signaling our intent. But of course, if something unforeseen happens, that there's nothing that sort of obligates us to doing it. But I think the important piece is that the process of how we flesh this out is transparent, open, and allows input from the communities that are going to be affected.
Joe,
Yeah,
not to
Marshall.
belabor the point, but does the language with it or without it really matter based on what you're saying? Our intent is to move forward with this, but it doesn't say we shall, and there's nothing obligating if we determine that we can't do it.
Mhm.
So does it really make a difference?
You mean, does it make a difference to take the should the decision
Right.
you make? Yeah. Well, I guess it's debatable, right? I feel it does, because it just eliminates that perception that, again, this is still about if we're going to do it, and gives more impression that it's about how we're going to do it. But I mean, that's my personal opinion, and that's why I was recommending taking it off. But if there are more board members who would like to keep the language the same, then we'll keep it the same and take it to the vote that way next week. So it sounded like we had 4 board members who wanted to strike that phrase. the other 5.
Including me.
What's that?
Did you count me?
Oh, and Zephy as well. Okay, so we have 5 board members who would prefer to strike that phrase from the language. But again, ultimately, it'll come down to a vote next week when we vote to approve the goals.
Joe, one other question. If we were to vote to approve that, and if ultimately we've heard back from the public that they're not in favor of it holistically, then what happens?
Well, I think we as a board would need to take that in consideration. And I think we would have the discretion to change course if there is overwhelming pushback or resistance to doing this. Again, in previous discussions, it seemed like there was fairly broad-based support for later school start times. But when we start getting into the nuts and bolts of like the impact of actually implementing it and what disruptions or changes might be necessary, it's possible that there could be a shift in the overall feeling of the community. And given the options before us and how to do it, that there could be overwhelming support the other way and just keeping things the same. I mean, that's possible. But I think what's important is that we clearly signal our intent, and then we authentically engage the community to let them know what we're thinking and allow them to shape, again, the how and the details of doing it. And through that process, we'll find out if there continues to be broad-based support or if there's significant pushback. And then we'll adjust and adapt accordingly. Is that fair, Paul?
Yeah, that is fair. And again, I'm not arguing for or against the concept. I am just suggesting that we get the public input first before we make affirmative statements and determine a direction. Because as you stated, it could come back that generally the public is not for it. And if that's the case, we're heading in a direction that is not part of public opinion, and that's
right.
Not something we necessarily want to do.
Okay, great. Before we move off of this one, I actually wanted to get any thoughts or comments from our student board reps about the idea of later school start times. Any thoughts to share, Carly or Alex?
Yeah, I would share that. I think I would go for this idea. I think I know when we started, I think it was only like 15 minutes later, but even those 15 minutes, it gave me 15 minutes extra of sleep. And it gave me more energy when I started class. So yeah, I would vote for it.
I would also definitely be in support of moving the arrival time back. And again, with the virtual school and it being later than normal arrival time for in-person school, I know I definitely was more awake for my classes. I had time to eat breakfast, which was huge because for now, I sometimes don't wake up in time to do that, which is bad. So virtual school and the later arrival time gave me that option. And yeah, I just think that I was more energized for my classes and ready to go. So I would definitely be in support of it.
Okay, thanks. Board members, any questions or comments on any of the other goals and priorities? If not, I have one more. So I had another comment for the very last one, and that is under the communication area. It's a 5B, where it talks about a redesign of the district's website. So for me, I felt like I would like a change to the language of this statement. I'm totally on board with the idea of totally redesigning the website. But after that, there is a phrase, including choosing a consultant to explore technical options, et cetera, et cetera. That piece to me seems like more a description of the means to changing the website, where I would like the language to reflect the end goal of a total redesign of the district's website. So rather than talking about how to do it, I would say that a total redesign of the district's website that makes it more parent-friendly, intuitive, and engaging. Something along those lines. So how you go about doing it, how the administration proceeds with it, hiring a consultant or doing it internal or whatever, I'm agnostic about. My focus would be that the purpose of a total redesign of the district's website, what that end goal of it is what should be more clearly stated as part of this. And to me, it's more along the lines of, again, more parent-friendly, intuitive and engaging, or some other similar type language.
Right, agreed. We don't need to be too prescriptive because, again, that's not our job. Our job is to tell the board what our policy is, and that is to be a more effective website, and we pay them to be able to do that job. Our job is not to stand at their elbow.
So what I'm suggesting is striking the phrase including, choosing, etc., through, I guess, preferences. And replace it with, again, a phrase that talks more about the end goal of a total redesign of the district's website, which to me would be more along the lines of making it more parent-friendly, intuitive, and engaging. Any objections to adjusting the language as such? Okay. All right, any other questions or comments on the goals, which we will vote on next week? Okay, great. So then the second item that we're going to be voting on next week under the board president report is approval of resolution W1621, which is an amendment to Jim's contract per document 6.2. Any questions about that? Okay.
Yeah, it's Steffi. I have a question.
Yes,
I don't actually understand this. Can you explain it? Are we just extending the contract? It's not very clear the way it's written.
Yeah, so Jim has a multi-year contract with the board, but within that contract, annually, we approve his annual increase. And that annual increase is based on his overall evaluation from us as a board. So once the evaluation is completed, then that gets factored into the annual amendment to his multi-year contract. And that's what this represents.
Okay, and so we don't share the evaluation?
The evaluation, I believe, is, or at least a version of it is like filed with the state and publicly available. Is that correct, Jim? That's my understanding.
There needs to be something on our website, a statement about the evaluation. I don't, do you know, Danielle, the exact, I know we have it on there from year to year.
Yeah, the statement has to go on the website, but the actual evaluation itself, I don't believe is put up there. Jeff, if you want to chime in.
Yeah. The statement only is whether the superintendent met the goals or did not meet the goals. But the exact details of the evaluation is confidential, as it would be for any other employee of the organization. But whether the goals were met versus not is statutory, so we have to reveal that on the website.
Okay. And to your knowledge, Danielle or Jim, is that on the website already? It is?
I don't know about for this year, but it is in previous years. Once this year is over, this motion is done, we'll post it there.
Yep, after board approval, we'll put it up.
Okay.
So I have a follow-up question then. I wasn't aligned to the evaluation. So, do I vote no for this?
You can? Yes?
Okay.
Or you could abstain, but the abstention is almost like a no.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and that's it for the board president report. So we're going to move on to the superintendent report. Jim?
Okay, thank you. Some informational items only. The first one is we're going to, with Carly's newfound ways of getting to school and challenges that encounter in the early morning hours, we'll find a way to ping her in some fashion, social media or email or something, a little earlier, Carly. I know you can do it. The recognition we have is one that we've been holding off on, and frankly, this is something it's a little bit late, but one of our special education supervisors, Miss Kate Iacovino, recently completed her certification for what's called a board certified behavior analyst, BCBA. That's an incredibly intensive course of study that is very specific to typically younger students. And it's not that Kate will necessarily be going down there and it's a one-on-one methodology. She'll be doing it herself necessarily, but now she knows exactly how to do it. She'll be able to supervise those who do. And I think this is a tremendous feather in her cap, but also tremendous value for us as a district. So my congratulations to Kate for that very nice accomplishment. Next, we have our official 10th day enrollment figures. Katie, you want to flash those up on the screen? We've got our 10th day, which, as you know, is the thing the state uses officially. It was a little later this year due to our weather day and our 2 religious holidays. But as of September 17th, these are our numbers. And if you could scroll down just a tiny bit, please. Yeah. You can see that I'll get my own hard copy here too. Our overall number of elementary students jumped a little bit. This is compared to last year's, or actually as of the end of last year, up a little bit. And as Kate, if you could scroll down to the bottom there, the overall number of students increasing is 164, which is about 3.35%. Spread across the grades. And then we have it in a second, we'll show you some historical trends on enrollment, but that's an enrollment jump that we would have predicted only because of the dislocations that COVID created last year. It's not really going to be helpful for us in terms of establishing a 3-year or 5-year trend, because we've got some rather significant hiccups caused by the pandemic. But it is significant in that all that hiring that Danielle was speaking of earlier in the meeting and all those new hires were generated by these new numbers. So I think that's important. You should also know, and there's notes at the bottom there, the K-5 numbers include the students who are currently choosing the Wissahickon Virtual Academy for the first semester, a total of 43. And they may or may not choose to come back in January, in which case we have saved a spot for them. They're in these figures. Whereas in the secondary grades, they're broken out. So it's not quite the same structure. And also it reflects the 11 students who chose to repeat a grade per their rights according to Act 66. So those 11 are back in the same grade as they were last year.
Excuse me, of those 11, what grades were they most in? Was this elementary or middle or high school?
Across the board, I think probably, a couple maybe in the primary grades, K and 1, a little bit more than the others, but it's across the board. 11 is a very small number compared to other districts, so it's just almost a footnote. Okay, so the second page is a look at the historical averages by school over the last 5 years, and then this one. And that, I think, shows some interesting trends. Starting at the top there with Bluebell, you can see it's gone from, 5 years ago, 411 students to over 500 now. And that reflects things in the community, developments that we had on the horizon. Again, I would hesitate to draw any conclusions from this year's numbers until we get a trend line that includes post-pandemic, hopefully. And then each of the other schools have gone up as well, as you can see, and we responded to the growth at Stony with the construction project that everybody saw, and we'll take a closer look at next meeting. So that will increase our capacity there. Overall, K-5 capacity has gone up, or enrollment, as you can see, has gone up, what's that, over almost 300 or so over the last 5 years. So substantial. And then that's going to play out in middle and then later high school as the years go by. There's not quite as much growth in those two schools over the last 5 years, but that's to be expected because there's a time lag between when growth in the secondary grades is reflected. It just needs, the kids need to work their way through the system.
Jim, I think obviously the last year or so have been strange in terms of enrollment because of COVID, but if you take a look at the 16-17 school year to this year, about a 5-year period, the district overall has experienced noticeable growth. I would kind of sort of back of the envelope say we've had 10 or 11% increase in total enrollment over that period of time, which is, I mean, I think fantastic in terms of us, being a thriving and growing district, but obviously something for us to continue to monitor as a board, given our school buildings and taking a look and keeping an eye on the capacity utilization of those buildings. But overall, I think it's much better to be in a growing school district than in a shrinking one. And Wissahickon has grown quite a bit over the last 5 years, as these numbers attest to. All right, thanks.
Yep, thank you. The next informational item is an update on the staff vaccine program. And as you remember, we implemented at last meeting something that has any staff members who are in the classroom on a regular basis who are unvaccinated will be tested twice a week. And I can tell you that once we sorted out all of the data and the submissions and the cards and whatnot, I'm very happy to say that over 90% of our certificated staff are vaccinated, 91% to be exact. So that's actually something I think we can all be very proud of. 84% of district staff overall are vaccinated, and that's resulting in about 55 or so staff members requiring to be tested. And we have this system set up. It's working in each of the schools. And you remember that this is an important precursor for us to understand how testing works and to implement it slowly, because it could well come a time when we want to do it on a grander scale for either more employees or more students or both. Right now, it's only this subset of people in the buildings.
Jim, do we know the positive cases that we've had so far? How many have been with vaccinated as opposed to unvaccinated?
Students or staff or both, or?
I mean, basically staff, because that's who we're testing right now, right?
Yeah. There's not a whole lot. I mean, we'll get to that when we start sharing the numbers. If we could just table that for a second. I don't know that we'll be able to post it tonight, but we have, I think, 5. So I don't know if it would be a useful percentage anyway, but we can take a look at that for sure. Any questions on this? Okay.
Jim, go first off. I think the vaccination rate for teachers at 91% is fantastic. And overall 84% is really strong too. So that's great. So just to clarify, those who are unvaccinated are subjected to once a week or twice a week testing now?
Two times.
Twice a week, okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, and then the last informational item is something we added in a blue sheet. It's to share with the board the plans for senior banquet, see if the board likes the idea or not. And also the plans for Homecoming Spirit Week, which Alex shared with us and Carly shared with us in terms of Homecoming Spirit Week. There's lots of activities. Those are all pretty much student-driven, student-developed, outside kind of in the works. The senior banquet, on the other hand, is one of those big events that is coming. It's actually in November, but we need to make a decision on that now in order to get things reserved and deposits made. So would welcome board input on those. I know the board would prefer to have input on things like this rather than have it be presented to you as a done deal.
Jim, I believe you sent us a draft of some of those activities.
Well, yes. So that there's the first. I guess we could deal with Homecoming Spirit Week first, since that's coming up basically next week. Basically there's daily things. There's some theme days. There's some activities like Alex was talking about, like powder puff football, some 3-on-3 basketball, just fun stuff to make the week fun, culminating in homecoming. That's pretty standard, annual standard events. The senior banquet is also fairly common for non-pandemic times, in that the proposition is students will be on the Spirit of Philadelphia, have a nice banquet, have some fun. But with the mitigations regarding COVID, we won't be able to, or there will be masks involved. There will be music playing, but no dancing. There'll be a buffet dinner. But of course you have to unmask for dinner, but it's sort of the same things that happen at school. Try to remain distanced as much as possible. One of the main differences this year compared to others is students will drive themselves to the Spirit of Philadelphia, not on a bus. So, they have some fun ideas, pie eating contest or name that tune trivia, but it's not going to be the same as normal, and that it's not dancing due to the mitigations.
Jim, I know we were talking about.
Hi, Jen, it's Effie.
Hey, Zeppi, Tracy was just starting to speak after Tracy.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
I was just gonna say, I know we were talking about no dancing, but is there an issue with having dancing outside on the Spirit of Philadelphia? Because they are outside on the boat as well, right?
Yeah, it's just the can't ensure if it's masked, it needs to be 3 feet. And there's a feeling that we can't ensure that. But if the board would like to do otherwise, we certainly can.
I'm not sure how you have music and expect them to stand there and not do anything about it. I think that was affected with prom as well. And that was some of the feedback that we got, that there should be some way of allowing kids, whether it's distanced or at certain times, allow them the opportunity to get up and dance a little bit. And I think that can be accomplished if we do it creatively without just saying you have to listen to it and not feel the urge to get up and dance. And I think they should have that opportunity to some extent. So.
Well, and that's kind of why I brought up about allowing them to dance outside, because it's open air. And if they stay masked and they're less than the 3 feet dancing, as long as they're masked.
You have to be 3 feet or more, but yeah.
Right, then, maybe that's something that can be considered, just, to allow them to enjoy the music that's there.
Sure.
But I think it's a great idea that we're doing the senior banquet and the homecoming spirit week. Anything that we can do to promote, school spirit, let the seniors be seniors, I think is a great idea. I applaud the, high school team for putting all of this together.
Is there a requirement for the students to be vaccinated, or do we know what percentage of students might be vaccinated?
No, there's not a requirement for students at this time.
Jim, is there a plan for the bonfire this year, or is that not an option?
Yes, that's for the homecoming. And that is part of the mix. I don't think they'll be dancing then, but what do I know? That could be, I suppose.
Zeppi, did you get a chance to ask your question?
No. Do we have feedback from the seniors about their interest in doing it this way, is my one question. And my second question is this only for our seniors, or are they allowed to bring a guest? Like, how is that handled?
This is, yes, this is the senior banquet. So it's only for seniors, and the senior advisors and senior class officers came up with these ideas.
Well, let's ask one of our high school seniors himself, Alex Gindea. Have you heard about the plans for a senior banquet and some of these other things we've been talking about? And if so, any thoughts or perspective to offer?
I heard briefly about the senior banquet, but as far as homecoming goes, I think everyone's just looking forward to it. I don't think there's any concern over the distancing with that. I know a lot of the events are outside, so I think that should be good, and everyone's just excited for it overall.
Okay, thanks. So Jim, I guess, what do you want from the board regarding these items?
Well, with regard to senior banquet, we need to know if the board would like to go forward as the plan, would like to have it with dancing. I mean, we don't want to present something that's a foregone conclusion. So this is the opportunity to decide. And then we'll certainly implement whatever the board would like us to do on this. That's not a problem. We just need to know.
Well, I mean, I guess maybe the way to think about it is, are there any board members who have any objections or concerns about the plan that Jim and the high school team have proposed for high school seniors?
No, this is an optional event, right? So, I mean, no objection.
If you're wording it as objection to how it's brought forth, then I would say that I believe that they should have dancing involved, maybe in the outdoor area. That would be my input on it. So I guess if we're objecting, then I would be objecting to it as is, but would like the dancing part added into it.
I agree with Tracy on that one. I think it's a great idea. I think they should absolutely do it. I think they deserve it. They should have it. And part of that, I think, comes with also, I think they'll be mindful. I think they'll be responsible. And if we can hold an outdoor activity with allowing them to cut loose or dance a little bit, I think we should.
I'm getting this vision of Jim as the Reverend in Footloose who was against dancing for the town.
That before Jim gets motion sickness, he won't be nowhere near the spirit of
Marshall
Philadelphia.
in the role of Kevin Bacon, I think, in this movie.
We're getting ready.
Yeah, yeah. So Jim, I think people generally are supportive of the plans for the high school seniors and would strongly recommend allowing dancing.
Okay, we'll make it now. Be clear, we're going to try as best we can. We'll ask for a best faith effort to keep the distancing, but we do not feel like we can guarantee that, just to be clear on that.
I'm going to make a comment that anyone who knows me would find incredibly laughable. But I remember my 7th grade dance, again, 10,000, maybe 11,000 years ago.
Wait, did they have music back then?
Yes, but it was banging on rocks with clubs, as I remember. But the rule then was that the students weren't supposed to touch when they were dancing. That they had to be a distance apart, and I thought that was also a novel idea. But again, delving into my extensive dance repertoire, what about line dancing? Certainly, that that is has distancing already built into it, and so that that's a possibility. And I've been to enough weddings where that has gone wrong. I've attempted many times to do the electric slide, and with no great success, but that's one possibility. Again, do not use me as an example.
Okay, I think we got it.
Joe, I think it's important to note, nobody puts baby in a corner, and I think that our students should be allowed to choose the dance of choice and not necessarily organized line dancing.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Okay, I think, Jim, I think the board has provided some guidance on those. And with that, we will move on to the assistant superintendent report. Wenyewe?
Once I compose myself. Thank you. Yes, 2 informational items. One is a brief summary of the staff in-service days in August, which seemed like forever ago at this point. Our faculty engaged in, of course, the typical department meetings. They also had data analysis sessions, and they were encouraged to practice creating data reports. We provided time for what we called curriculum step up and step down conversations for faculty to work with alike grade level teams as well as teams above and below, to really focus on identifying any potential gaps in curriculum and instruction from the last year and a half.
There was valuable time for teachers to focus on ensuring the success of all learners. They talked about and discussed and shared ideas around pre-teaching and reteaching, pre-assessing and reteaching those foundational concepts and skills. They focused on thinking about how they would implement differentiated instruction this school year, as well as planning for purposeful uses of technology for this school year. So we really carved out that time for them to be able to engage in these discussions. We also carved out time for teachers to plan ways to establish their classroom communities by exploring various resources that are going to be added to our curriculum SharePoint site for our staff to access all year long. That help to think about ways to build relationships with students and reconnect with them to create those welcoming classroom environments, which we know is critical to helping students develop a sense of belonging. And we know that that's important for any start of the school year, but this school year especially, considering what our students have gone through with this pandemic. Our instructional aides engaged in learning opportunities that focus on self-awareness and reflective practices for equitable classrooms and trauma-informed practices. So these are just the sampling of the many opportunities that our faculty and staff engaged in terms of learning and collaborating during those August in-service days. And of course, we're off to the year at this point, but we're just wanted to share that brief summary. The next informational item is a very, very brief presentation that I would like to share that focuses on supporting students who quarantine. We know our instructional model this school year is for 100% in person. So our students who are not who are quarantining are not able to join the class virtually when they're not able to come to the school. We know though that it is important for us to find ways for students to connect and check in with teachers during that quarantine time. So we'll go to the next slide. Typically in prior years pre-COVID, work has been typically assigned asynchronously for students who were not able to come into school. This year, one of the things that we want to ensure that we are including is, of course, we'll continue to provide assigned asynchronous schoolwork, but we would like to plan for, of course, sending that technology device home. We know at the elementary level, the devices don't go home every day. They stay in the school, but when we know a student needs to quarantine, we want to ensure that that technology device gets sent home. We want to ensure that assignments and supplemental resources will be available in our online platforms, as you can see outlined there, Seesaw, Teams, and Schoology. Our teachers will ensure that the focus of those assignments are on essential content only and that we're being flexible with deadlines, which is critical as our students are out. And lastly, we want to make sure that we're including ways for teachers or counselors to offer to meet with students virtually for check-ins and to help them identify additional supports for when they're in that quarantine period. So if they need support with school assignments, with schoolwork, there are various ways for students to get connected to those opportunities. For example, at the high school level, they can have virtual access to the math lab and the writing lab. At the middle school level, they can have virtual access to the middle school after school program and the virtual STARS tutoring program. And at the elementary level, we are planning to put in place an opportunity for virtual access to after school academic support. In addition to those academic focused times, our plan will include our teachers, and again, I said teachers or counselors, checking in with students at various times throughout their school day when they can find the time available to check in with students. And that really is to focus on connecting with students. So those check-ins are not instructional times. It's not synchronous instruction. It's intended to be an opportunity to connect with students while they're out because we know the emotional and social toll that may take on students. And so those check-ins with the teachers will support them in that regard, while access to those opportunities for academic support will support them in completing assignments and answering questions about any homework.
We know that there are families who would prefer for us to have synchronous instruction for students who quarantine. It's simply not a part of our instructional plan for this year. Our model with being 100% in person, our teachers are grateful for this structure, which allows them to focus on the students and having our teachers have consistent daily practices with students every day in person. We got a great deal of feedback last year with at the secondary level with that hybrid model with teachers teaching to two modalities, students in person as well as students who were joining in via Teams, and there were some challenges with that. And so we do not recommend that at this time in terms of having teachers needing to divide their attention during instructional time. Our teachers last year, as we know, they rose to the occasion. They did wonderful work under those circumstances, which required us to have that in place because we needed to have 6-foot distancing in the classroom. So rotating between those two groups was critical in order for us to do that. However, this year that is not our model, and we would not recommend that at this time. So we want to get some supports in place, though, recognizing the need for students to connect with teachers and with their peers, as well as the need for some students to connect with those academic supports. And finally, I want to just draw attention to an additional mitigation effort, which is very much connected to the issue of quarantining, because we do intend at the K-6 levels. In fact, many of our schools started today, but this week, all of our schools with the students in grades K-6 will be adjusting their lunch areas to reflect 6-foot distancing. And that will significantly reduce the number of students who are identified as close contacts and therefore required to quarantine. I know later this evening, Ms. Karianakis will be reviewing some of the numbers around COVID, but this is something that we believe is really essential to helping ensure more students get to stay in school in person. Okay. Thank you.
Questions for Munyewe? Yeah, Ron and then Amy.
Yeah, how many of our students are in quarantine at this time?
I know that number is coming up a little later this evening. I want to say, I don't want to misspeak though. I know that's a part of.
Ballpark figure?
Yeah, 90 to 100 students right now. And we know that number we know for a fact that number will decrease once we make this change to the lunch areas. Students will no longer be close contacts at the lunch period if they are 6-foot distance when they're not wearing their masks. At the start of this school year, our lunch periods, our lunch areas had students that were 3-4 foot distance. And so when cases would arise, that is where a lot of our students, in terms of close contacts that we were finding, were in those lunch areas. So making this adjustment to reflect 6-foot distancing is going to have a significant, we anticipate a significant decrease in the number of students who are required to quarantine, because it will have a significant reduction in the number of students who are close contacts from those lunch areas.
Amy?
Thank you. I'm just wondering, is it possible to have our teachers just record their lectures and lessons to have them uploaded for the students to listen to? I know it's hard to speak to both the students at home virtually as well as the students in the classroom, but I just wonder if it wouldn't be beneficial to our students. Like as a parent, I know in like spring of 2020, it was really helpful to have like the videos of our teachers teaching the lessons so that we could log on. It was really helpful for me. I have elementary age kids to assist them with doing their work that they needed to do. But just getting the work and not having an actual lesson, and if we're just having like daily check-ins and it's not really teaching the material, I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be helpful just to have recorded sessions that you at least can hear the teacher and listen to the material. Thank you for that. That was one of the many ideas that we brainstormed. The concern is the additional burden that it places on the teachers to record those lessons, but it's certainly something that we could explore if the board were to request that. We wanted to ensure that our teachers were not having the added work of, because they're not teaching to the computer. So that would require some technology exploration and or would require them to be near their computers to record.
So that was not a part of the recommendation at this time.
Are there headsets possibly that could be worn or some sort of device that they don't have to be standing right next to their computer? But again, I don't want them to be distracted from the students in the classroom, but something that still allows them to record to help those students at home.
Certainly something that could be explored.
And my
There
other
is
question,
our camera technology that exists for that purpose, but that is a technology investment that the district will have to look at.
and is that something, if we could look into that, like I don't imagine we'd need one for each teacher. I'm hoping it's something that could be sanitized and, you know, if I don't have anybody quarantining in my class, it could be passed to the next teacher who does have somebody quarantining in their class. So if we could maybe look into that, that would be great. And then my other question was the asynchronous days that our students are doing, do those count towards their total instructional days for the year? It's not counted as absences, correct?
They're not counted toward their absences where they would be triggered for truancy. No.
Okay, thank you.
So wait, when you say that, does that mean it's going to show up as an absent on their report card?
It shouldn't be.
It's my understanding that the state has an actual code that is used on the for referring to absences under quarantine.
We do have a local code that we're using for our attendance clerks. That's correct, for quarantining.
I had a couple of questions also. What the quarantine period now, 5 days plus a negative test? Or is it 10 days? What's the quarantine period now?
It varies. It's not a straightforward answer. It depends on the circumstances, whether a student is vaccinated or unvaccinated, whether they have a test or not, whether they're having symptoms or not. So that's a difficult question to give you a flat answer, but it could range anywhere from 3 to 10 days, let's say, depending on the circumstances around the case.
Do we have any idea how frequently students who are in quarantine then develop an infection?
I don't have that data, but I'm sure that's something we could explore.
Dr. Dewan, I do have a concern with the fact that we're not talking a day or two. We're talking 3 to 10 days where kids are not in school for a sustained period of time, not a couple days on, a couple days off, but you're talking up to 10 days. And I think we should look into a way to allow those students at home, whether it's to participate or not, to at least plug in or be virtual or something, because we're looking at 90 students so far. Hopefully those numbers don't grow. We're not talking about the most significant part of our schools. So it's not in every class, but I think we owe it to these kids to not allow them to fall behind by giving them an opportunity to maybe at least watch the class, 1, to engage, 2, to be part of the class. If they're going to miss a week and a half or more, and you don't know if it could turn into a second or a third quarantine. We have students who could miss a considerable amount of time for the school year, and to think that they won't be in school or have that interaction at all. I think we're all thankful that we are able to be in school 100%. We want everybody in, but I think we also have to be mindful of those who can't, maybe through no fault of their own or whatever the circumstance may be. I'd like to see if we can come up with some way, whether it is, as Amy said, an earpiece or a computer in the classroom, and maybe it's not completely interactive, but at least an opportunity for the students to engage, and we don't lose them for that long without that. In addition, is there any consideration regarding the busing, where there are potential kids who have to quarantine who still go home on a bus if they then have to quarantine? We want to make sure we don't cause anybody aggravation thinking that they have now been on a bus on the way home with somebody who is going to be quarantining, and they could be potentially either infected or exposed. So that's another area I'd like to see some additional looking into as well.
I also would agree with the idea of having the lesson at least being broadcast from the classroom, even if it's just using the the camera on the teacher's laptop so that the students can see what's going on in the classroom and have the teacher wear a loop so that the sound would also be. And if the students has questions, then that can happen in the checkup time that you've already mentioned. So the idea of making the students feel as if they are part of the class, even if they're not physically there. And I know I'm just saying how, I don't exactly have a magic wand, not even a technological one, but I think it's something for us to consider. If you can remember back when we talked about having the combination virtual and in class, and physically in class, how it seemed like it was going to be impossible. It was difficult, but we managed to pull it off for quite a few months for our students. And I think this effort is something that we should really look forward. And as I agree that I hope that once we separate our students out to a greater degree at lunch, the reason to quarantine will probably go down. But we still have potentially somewhere between 50 to 100 students at a time for 3 to 10 days not being part of the classroom. And this feeling of disconnect and exile is not something that we want to encourage in our students, considering what they've already gone through these past 18 months. We don't want to compound it.
Ronnie?
Teachers move around in the classroom, especially K through 6. I don't see how you can possibly have something that's going to have students know what's going on and try to engage when they're absent. I mean, there are lots of times through other years where kids are absent for a week or two. We give them homework, they work on it. It's not the end of the year that or the end of the world that they've missed some days. They're able to make things up. The idea of having recorded lessons, that's an awful lot to put on the teachers.
Yeah, kind of building on Ronnie's point is that we did do hybrid education for a significant part of the year last year, and we did make it work. But I think there was also a recognition that that hybrid education experience was subpar for both the in-person and the virtual students relative to an in-person education. And I think that's why there was so much emphasis in bringing everyone back full time. So yes, we did make it work, but it's because we had to. It's not that it was like recommended or actually preferred. And to put a burden on the teacher to have to do some kind of, I don't know, recording or whatever afterwards, I think, doesn't acknowledge that teaching or teachers today and the way they run and manage the classroom is very different than it may have been back when we were kids. When I was a kid in school, teachers tended to stand in front of the classroom and lecture. So yeah, you could record what they said and then you could listen to it afterwards. But these days, the teachers do very little of that, or a lot less, let's say, standing in front of class and lecturing the entire period. It's a lot more interactive, a lot of small group discussion, a lot of breaking up into like individual activities. And so just having like an open mic, listening to that, I don't think it'd be very valuable or helpful for someone at home because it's very disjointed and it's not designed to be listened to afterwards. So that's another thing. The third thing I'll reference is that 90 to 100 kids currently on quarantine right now is a raw number that seems kind of high, but put it into perspective of the total enrollment of the district is about 5,000 kids. So we're talking in the neighborhood of 2% or less of the population that is currently in quarantine. As Ronnie said, previous years, someone might have mono and they might be out for 2 weeks. Someone might have, I don't know, like a severe broken leg or the intraction or something, they'd be out for 2 weeks. And the plan that we presented here is more supports and services than we typically provided pre-COVID. And it does offer live touch points for the student, as well as access to academic content as well. So, I mean, for me, I wouldn't be, making a big push to try to sort of like go through gyrations to get some kind of like static subpar recording to these students who are on quarantine. Because I don't think, number one, it's an imposition on the teachers, but number two, I don't think it's actually that effective educationally for the kids who are quarantining. But I guess I'm curious, like, all right, we have actual students here. I'd like to hear from our student board reps. If you guys were quarantining, what do you think of the idea of having like I guess, audio recording of the classes that you missed? Yeah, what are your thoughts on that approach?
Yeah, so I was actually just thinking about this, and it kind of applies to what happened last week. I had to miss a day of school, and I did have a little illness scare, but all was well. But it was a serious thought that went through my head that if I did have to miss 2 weeks of school, that would like definitely bring me back. I know there is some like procedures that are in play to help make sure you can meet with your teachers, and you only go over like the essential work. But I think definitely if we could do something, whether that is like an audio recording, or even like if we can do kind of what we had with office hours, but if we could do like maybe after school, even like a 5-minute call with your teacher at the end of the day. I think we need something, because that is a serious thing that I think many people who may be sick, they may be scared to miss out, and that could affect people's health at school. So if there is anything, I think either an audio recording or meeting with your teacher for 5 minutes, I think that'd be really beneficial.
So Alex, if you had to choose between meeting live with teachers and check-ins or listening to a recording of the classes that you missed, which would be preferable to you?
I would prefer the even like a 5-minute live call, just because I know the audio recording, if you have a 45-minute one, or even like on block days, that's an hour and a half. It can be hard listening to it for that long and staying focused. So I think it would be best just to get really concise, talk to your teacher, and like catch up on your information that you missed.
Carly, how about you?
I don't know if Carly's in here anymore. I know she was having
Yeah, I think we lost her.
Okay, no problem. Well,
Hey, I had a couple of comments. So I know that some of the support offerings that we have for the middle school and the high school is great. Are all those reactive in the sense that the student has to do the outreach, or can we kind of have a little bit of an outreach to ensure that they're supported? And then for the K through 5, can't we use some of those volunteers to help out with the K through 5? I especially worry about the K through 3 grade. So that would be something that maybe we can see if that's a possibility. And then I saw your comment that, deadlines would be flexible, which is great. But how about tests, especially in the middle school and the high school? Would there be more second chance opportunities? Will there be kind of additional support? I just know how critical some of these tests are and how they impact your grade. And just, having one bad kind of grade can really spiral someone to be stressed out about that. So can we think about how we're actually testing these kids? I mean, we're still in the COVID drag from last year, and not to have some kind of mitigation for these kids, especially if they're out on quarantine, makes me a little worried.
Thank you.
My one question, or I guess my comment would be, with the changing of the lunch, how many of those, do we know how many of those 90s are like K through 5? The 90 kids that are quarantined?
We do. We're going to show those numbers in a little bit, Tracy. So hold on.
If it's a large number of the 90 that are K through 5, then we think by changing the lunch to the 6 foot, that'll alleviate maybe a chunk of the kids that are quarantining off the bat. right? So that's a good thing. And then I do like the idea of that Alex was talking about with the office hours. Was that part of the plan that we were putting forth? Wasn't that something on there about the office hours?
There are opportunities at each level for students to connect with teachers to get that academic support. So at the secondary level, it's the math lab and writing lab that exists. So those opportunities will be made virtual for students. And at the middle school, the STARS tutoring program, as well as the after school club, students would be able to access both of those virtually. And at the elementary level, we are creating an opportunity for after school sort of homework support, schoolwork support for students to be able to connect virtually while they're in quarantine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, Manyewe, thank you for that update. That takes us now to the board solicitor report. Jeff?
Yes, board members in executive session presumptively reviewed 2 settlement agreements for student number 787899 and 788097 based upon documents 9.1 and 9.2 appended to the agenda, and we will be recommending approval for those 2 settlement agreements as presented. Questions, comments?
All right, thank you, Jeff.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. The board secretary report, Wade?
Yeah, thank you. No informational items, and we'll have up for approval at the next meeting, the August 23rd regular public board meeting minutes per document 10-1. That concludes the secretary's report.
Wade, can you continue with the treasurer report, please?
Thank you. No informational items, and we will present for acceptance and minuting the treasurer's report for August 31st, 2021 per document 11-1, and that is the only item up for approval.
Okay, any questions or comments for Wade? All right, well, moving on to the Director of Human Resources report. Danielle?
All right, good evening again. For tonight's report, there are no informational items. However, for your review are action items 12B 1 through 12. So 1 is retirements, resignations, terminations, appointments, leave of absences, and extracurricular resignations and appointments. 2 is the approval of the salary degree changes for the 21-22 school year. Each fall, our professional staff are able to submit for movement based on their educational attainment. Approval 3 is approval of the updated inductee mentor list for this school year. 4 is the approval of the high school year-long extracurricular activities. 5 is the approval of additions to the volunteer lists. 6 is the approval of the revised job description for the supervisor of operations. There's just a couple changes there for your review. 7 is the approval of additions to the homebound instruction list for the 21-22 school year. 8 is the approval of employees achieving the tenure status as we presented earlier this evening. 9 is the approval of new additions to the substitute list for this school year. And then 10, approval of the STS addendum agreement effective October 5th through the end of the school year. That document is requesting an increase to our teacher sub rate that would more closely align to districts in our area and help us increase the number of daily per diem subs we have in our schools and to be more attractive in that area. 11 is approval to increase the transportation substitute bus driver rate to $30 per hour. This was also presented in the buildings and ground meeting. And again, to help us attract more bus drivers for our transportation needs. And then 12, approval to create a 1-year temporary job position for a staff nurse, floater / contact tracer. This position is being requested based on the burden of our current nursing staff. They're spending most of their days contact tracing. They're getting calls late in the day, having them, so they have to contact trace at night and on weekends. And this is creating a burden because they're not able to get to the serious needs during the day. This would help ease that burden in order to do this contact tracing. We are hoping with the changes in the lunch that there are less children that we have to contact trace. But as Dr. Crisfield mentioned earlier, this position would also be helping with the testing program. Right now it's just staff, but should we want to expand that to test students or additional staff, we will need that capacity in this position. So that concludes my report, and I am happy to answer any of your questions.
Any questions for Danielle? Okay, thanks. We're going to move on to the Communications Committee report. Zephy?
Hi, Katie, if you're on. Awesome. So we have some numbers. We've changed a little bit the format as to how we're presenting this information. On this slide, we're looking at on-campus, in-person positive COVID-19 cases. And this is just in-person within the time period of infection. So you can see we have a total of 41 at the moment, with 18 on the week of 9/13 and 23 the week of 9/20. So we're no longer doing rolling numbers. And Katie, the way I read this, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is a cumulative number, the 41, correct?
That's correct.
Yep. So you could see the numbers here. Next slide is off-campus COVID cases. And so these are reported cases of either student or staff that are not on campus during their infection period. And you can see here we have a total cumulative number of 11. The next slide is actually what a lot of people had questions on so far. And this is the number of quarantining students. And so this is as of September 27th. And you can see that we have a total of 116 with a total with 111 of that being students and 5 staff. And you can see that the breakout is kind of equal, I guess, across buildings, except for the high school. And, you know, Dr. Dewani mentioned this, that we will be separating lunch at the K through 6 to 6 feet. So hopefully that will help. But some of the information that's been received from the nurses is that some of this exposure can be due to sports as well. And I think the last slide is just a definition of what's on and off campus. I think this is a really good point because I do think it's a little confusing. So, you know, I'm a high school parent, so I get an email when there's cases at the high school. So sometimes the cases may not always match up with what's being reported, and that's because when they do the contact tracing, they do assess that 48 hours, so that can alter some of those numbers. But the nurses and the Department of Health are working very closely to keep an eye on all of these things. I want to thank Katie for pulling these new slides together. I think they're very helpful, and we'll continue to show them at these board meetings. Does anyone have any questions?
Amy?
Do we currently have the ability to test at the schools? So if someone does test positive, are we able to do a test there at the school for anyone that may have been exposed?
No, not for students. We can build to that point, but we would only have a rapid test anyway. We wouldn't have the PCR on site.
So,
And we probably would need parental consent, right?
Correct. And I was just wondering if a parent consents, if we have that ability to do it so that they can get it sooner rather than having to wait.
Sounds like we currently don't have the tests on site or the capability or supply really for students, right? Okay. Tracy.
So I was just going to make a comment of it looked like of the 116, pretty much 70 some, it looked like 75 maybe, I don't know, are elementary level. So hopefully, once we get the new numbers of the distance lunches, we'll be able to take a look at that and see if that is actually truly making a difference in the elementary level. Because that's a lot of elementary kids. You know, the middle school's at the 27 and high school actually is very good this time around. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see the difference of the distancing at the lunches for those numbers.
Yeah, Amy.
Danielle, I have a question about the staff column. How many of those are teachers?
Well, you can see, you know what, I have to look at my list, to be honest with you. Obviously, those in the buildings could be a teacher or a classroom assistant. I have to pull it up, but I can get that information for you.
And I'm just wondering, have we had any issues this year with getting substitutes, since we're probably fighting with other districts that have similar issues?
Yes, it is an issue. COVID is part of that. We've had vacancies in elementary especially, and I think it is because students in those grade levels aren't vaccinated. We have a lot less per diem subs that are willing to pick up on a daily basis. We have more daily subs that will pick up in the high school, however. So again, is one of the reasons why we thought maybe we believe a increase in the rate could be helpful.
Thank you.
All right, Zephy, Katie, thanks for that update. And thank you for your continued efforts in trying to assemble the information in a user-friendly and informative way for us. And we'll definitely keep an eye on all that stuff as the year progresses. Next up, we have the Curriculum Technology Committee report. Ronnie?
Actually, Joe, I had asked that we kind of go over what the protocol is now for COVID-19. There's been a lot of questions around, what, when, how, and it is confusing. I mean, Dr. Dewani kind of made it very clear, like you could be in quarantine anywhere between 3 and 10. So I had asked Dr. Crisfield to kind of give us kind of some of the more frequently asked questions to ensure that our community is aware.
Okay. Yeah, Jim.
Okay, well, lots of questions are received. So first of all, we do have a frequently asked question page on the website that is updated. And as you might imagine, there are lots of details and nuances to questions. So it's difficult to answer everyone's questions exactly the way they would like them, but there's some broad categories of things that might help. And the first of which is who is contacted about what and then when. So, and a couple parents have reached out with questions, and I know they're asking the buildings as well. The way this works is our first priority when we are made aware of a positive case is to do the contact tracing, which, as we spoke about earlier, is taking a lot of time and it needs to. And then from then, the first priority before anyone else hears about anything is to reach out, phone call to the people who've been determined to be close contacts. So that takes a while. And so with our social media capabilities out there, certain people learn about tests and positive outcomes before we report it. And we're not slowly reporting, or we're not ignoring the case. we're doing what we need to do first, which is the courtesy of anybody who's close contact has to be reached first. So if that's only 2 people, it's not a big deal. In a certain instance, if it's 10, of course, it takes longer. Then we send communications out at the elementary level. We would send a communication to the all parents and guardians in that class. Let's say it's a 2nd grade class, that there's a positive case. Of course, there's no names. And we also, based on parent feedback, we now send a letter or an email to the entire school, just saying that there was a case. And we post it on the website, and the slides or the screenshots we saw, so the people who are interested in the big picture can see that as well. It's slightly different at middle and high school, and there's not a classroom, so the whole school gets it. As Zeffie noted, she gets emails from if somebody tests positive at the high school. There's a desire / craving out there for more information, more details. And I think it's important to note that the reason that we don't share more details is because we have this balancing act of trying to protect the information that a student has, health information that is legally confidential. And we can't provide as much information as everyone would like, because it's very likely that someone could then triangulate those pieces of information and ascertain which student tested positive. And that's absolutely protected legally. So this is the dilemma we're up against. Everyone said, well, I need to know this, and I need to know now, and about the bus. And the answer is, well, we're sharing out as much as we can without compromising the students' legal rights. It seems frustrating at times. There's nobody more frustrated than the staff at the schools, the principal and the nurses, who have to field all the complaints about why we aren't telling them exactly where it happened and when and how many kids were involved. We can't even disclose how many kids were close contacts. That's also not information. So those are most of the questions we're receiving in terms of the FAQs, and we try to answer them as completely as we can. But sometimes what happens is the answer isn't what people want to hear. I don't know how else to put it. And we don't have a different answer when that happens. We just have to try to explain the why and just have to move on.
Jim,
Thank you.
if I could follow up to that, can you describe a little bit about how our contact tracers go about doing the contact tracing? Like, for example, my daughter, her 2nd grade class for Encore splits with another class. So now she's in with another group of students. And then I'm just wondering, like, do we talk to those students? Because she's obviously with them more than 15 minutes. Do we talk to the teacher? Do we talk to the Encore teacher? Like, who are we talking to find out who they've been exposed to?
So that's a good question. The answer is so contact tracing has to do with if somebody's tested positive, how many people were technically close contacts by the definition we received from Montgomery County Office of Public Health. So we only have to ascertain how many students were within, in the case of a student inside, and everybody's all masked up, how many students were closer than 3 feet for more than 15 minutes. That's the definition that we work with. So as we discussed earlier, that really gets us to the lunchroom 99 times out of 100, because our teachers are very, very careful about not having kids closer than 3 feet for more than 15 minutes. So there's no need to talk to anyone in the classroom if there's no contact. And we would talk to the teachers, say, hey, you've been abiding by the rules. Were they ever sitting on their rug for 25 minutes, shoulder to shoulder? The answer is they shouldn't have been, and thankfully they aren't. But we have been unable to crack that lunch nut until very recently. So in an Encore class, they follow the same rules. They're not allowed to sit more than 3 feet or closer than 3 feet. If they do happen to rub elbows or something, if it's less than 15 minutes, it's not a close contact, so no one gets notified.
So how are we doing that? Like, at back to school night, I saw like classrooms. Like, we're not all facing forward this year. We're sitting in clusters. Like, are the teachers making sure that those clusters, like that the students aren't getting that close to one another?
Yes, the teachers all know that there's the student exemption is 3 feet. as long as everybody's masked up. And when the older kids, it has to do with vaccination too, but that's a different matter. And younger kids who can't get vaccinated just yet, teachers are all extremely aware of the importance of 3 feet.
And what about like Encore? Like Stony doesn't have like dedicated Encore room. So we have like art on the cart in the classroom. And like I said, my daughter's class is a split session. So her class goes with another class. So now we have a classroom with 2 classes in it for an Encore. Like how are they managing that to make sure that they're distanced?
I don't know of any circumstances which are closer than 3 feet. Do you, Wade, or no, we're not aware of any times when students have to be less than 3 feet, other than lunch.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Steffi, is that cover the FAQs?
Yeah, one minor thing that wanted to add during our facility meeting last week, one of the things that we are asking our administration to look into is the potential of looking at a bigger room for our board meetings. We love this hybrid option. Actually, I would not be able to attend today if it wasn't an option because I had another work commitment. So we plan to keep those. We plan to keep Zoom questions an option, but there is investigation happening to see if we can have a bigger space, but it would have to support all the technology, which is part of the hurdle. If there's new information, we'll share that out, but that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Steffi. All right, now we'll go back to the Curriculum and Technology Committee report. Ronnie?
Thank you, Joe. There are no informational items. And Dr. Duan, I'm going to turn over all of these action items to you.
Thank you. We have action items 14B1 through 14B7. Item 1 is an agreement with the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit for services related to Title I and Title II federal programs and coordination for services with our non-public schools. These agreements are going to be or are renewed for 3 years, so it'll be effective 2021 through 2024. Item 2, we're seeking renewal for our agreement with the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit for services related to Title III. This is a 1-year renewal for this school year, and Title III provides targeted assistance through our English language development program. So we're in the consortium agreement with the MCIU, and so this is a typical annual renewal request. Item 3 is focusing on our dual enrollment agreement with the Montgomery County Community College. This is an annual agreement for our high school students to enroll and participate in college credit courses while in high school. Item 4 is focusing on the new multimedia equipment that'll be used to outfit the new classrooms as part of the Stony Creek construction project. And this equipment mirrors the template that we have used in classrooms throughout our district. Items 5, 6, and 7 will be seeking approval of outplaced tuition contracts, which have been explained in a memo to the board. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? All right, thank you. We're going to move on to the Facilities and Transportation Committee report. Tracy?
Thank you. Yes, the Facilities Transportation Committee had a meeting on September 21st. We did go over a few, I guess 7 items. Briefly, the high school turf project and the middle school area conversion, the old pool area. We had a discussion on those. They were very favorable discussions. We also talked about the high school and middle school traffic issues, which I believe we will be having a vote to have an engineering study done to check out if there's something that we can do with the traffic issues there. We did talk about the transportation bus drivers, trying to find some solutions on the shortage of bus drivers that we have. We did discuss the YMCA after school care. We also talked about the facility rentals and not having, I guess it was adult outside entities renting indoor programs right now. And then we also talked about filters and if there was a need for HEPA filters in the individual classrooms. And then we are going to have 3 voting items or 3 action items for next week, and that will be to approve or discard excess obsolete equipment, which we have on occasion. And there's a list here if anybody has any questions. And then the approval to purchase adjustable height open front student desks in the amount of $10,980 and student chairs in the amount of $6,190.50 for the Stony Creek. And then the authorization that we were just talking about to conduct the traffic study in the amount not to exceed $24,900. There's any questions?
Any questions for Tracy? Okay, thank you. The Finance Committee report, David?
Thank you, Joe. Finance Committee has no informational items. We'll have 2 action items for vote next week. First is approval of the financial reports for document 16-1. The second is approval of the list of payments issued in the month of August for document 16-2. That's all.
Questions for David? Okay, thank you. Policy Committee report, Marshall?
Thank you. I have no informational or action items. That's the end of the report.
All right, thank you. The Racial Equity Oversight Committee, Paul?
Thank you, Joe. The Racial Equity and Oversight Committee met on September 20th. We had 3 primary agenda items. The first was to reconnect the group, given the hiatus over the summer. We had good attendance and we were able to reconvene with an agenda for the remainder of the year. And that included a review of our equity policy. We felt it was important for the committee to have a long-standing commitment to the district and to the board. And in doing so, we wanted to create a policy around it that would allow it to be everlasting. And so we talked about possible language to be included with that. And that's an ongoing effort, which we will report on again later. But a very good discussion around the policy. We also discussed upcoming meetings. There were a few conflicts that members had, so we wanted to find a meeting date that would be amenable to as many members as possible. And so we had some discussion around that, as well as overall what we hope to achieve for the remainder of the year. One other thing of importance, we did discuss the success that we feel the district and the committee has had to date. And there's been a lot of progress since the committee started. Some was in an ongoing effort starting prior to the committee, but we believe the committee did play an influential role in furthering those efforts. And just to highlight a couple, that includes the creation and fulfillment of the diversity position that we mentioned earlier in the meeting. And we feel that will be an important addition to the district, as well as some excellent new hires that add diversity to the entire district at both the administrative level as well as the staff level within the district. We have no reporting items. I'm sorry, no action items for this meeting.
Okay. Questions or comments for Paul? All right, thank you. We're moving on to the report of board representatives. Extracurricular Committee, Tracy?
Nothing at this time.
MCIU Board of Directors, Amy?
Thank you. So we've had 2 meetings, one in August and then one just last week. We had a couple things. One I wanted to bring up related to our transportation and facilities meeting. I did ask about the bus situation because we did talk about whether or not the MCIU could possibly support us. And I did bring it up that we had this issue with bus drivers. And I found out that actually they surveyed the districts in the county and 19 to 21 responded. And there's 198 bus driver shortages across the county. And the MCIU alone has, I think it was 28 shortages.
Wow.
So they're in no position to offer any assistance. They did bring up some things going on at the state level, though, that the governor is looking into, possibly talking to PennDOT about the CDL requirements. Also, I heard something about, they talked about the National Guard being involved. So it seems like they're looking into a lot of different options, but there's nothing, readily available right now to solve the immediate issue. Other things, we talked about a new mental health support program they have called Explorations. It's going to be a school-based partial hospitalization program for students in K through 6. So that's a new development. They also talked, which maybe Ron might be talking about, some of the legislation. So I won't go into that, but we talked about a couple pieces of legislation to keep an eye on. So if Ron doesn't touch on those, maybe I'll bring those up. Thanks.
Thank you. MCIU Legislative Committee, Ron?
Yes, we didn't have a meeting, but I was given some extensive notes from the IU about the mischief that the state legislature is involved in as far as the way we in most districts responded to the COVID pandemic. One of the things following up the constitutional amendment that was rammed through to curtail the power of the governor to declare and extend emergencies. They want to pretty well squash the way that public schools will do it. They want to expand and provide vouchers and scholarships to private schools that would, of course, be paid by the public schools whenever public schools are closed because of emergencies and can't provide for in-person classes. There is no specific time as to how long this would be. The way it is phrased, basically, as soon as the public schools are closed, the parents can start lining up and making us pay for their students to go to private schools. And one of the interesting factors in this is once the student is there, even when the public schools would reopen, the kids would stay again on our dime. And of course, following the great tradition of charter schools, there's no mention of accountability from the private or charter school as to testing or other policies or taking special ed students. They've also asked the U.S. Department of Education, because of the school bus driver shortage, as Amy mentioned, is to, and this is a quote, to lessen the burden of obtaining and maintaining a school bus driver endorsement. What this means, it would be easier to get a bus driver's license. And there's no mention as to how this might put our children in danger with a ill-trained driver. And also, and there's another, you've heard of the critical race theory and the reaction to some people that were supposedly teaching it. They want to force school districts to post all curriculum and texts online. And this seems to be nothing more than a way to make it easier for folks to hunt for the imaginary critical race theory classes that we don't actually have, but it would make it easier for them to conjure things up. And basically, the state legislature is just getting started. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. North Monco Technical Career Center, Ronnie?
Okay, on September 20th, I attended what I hope was my last Zoom meeting with North Monco. And what we talked about there, they're proposing 2 new programs at North Monco. One is a sports medicine program, which will deal with rehabilitation aid. It's a 3 to 4 year program that would be done with Montgomery Community College. And it would be for about 40 to 45 students. The other new program is a social media and digital marketing program. Obviously, that has to do with video and photography, and the other is an IT program. Those would be 1 year programs for about 40 to 50 students. And that's my report.
Thank you. PSBA Liaison, Zeffie?
Nothing to report, but very cool stuff at North Monco.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that takes us to the second public comment period of the evening, where we will hear public comment on any school-related topic. And again, we'll alternate between in-person comments and then check the Zoom queue. The same rules apply as to our first public comment period. And we have one registered speaker in person this evening, and that is Deanne Morris from Ambler, speaking about testing and vaccines. Hello.
All right, hi, I'm Deanne from Ambler, and I just first wanted to say thank you guys so much for all that you've done this year. My kids are in school and they're so happy, and they love Mrs. Kanapka, and they love their teacher, who's also brand new. And we saw in the video, Miss Dugan. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. There's just a couple safety things I wanted to bring up just because of my own want to do it. Sorry. The COVID dashboard, I know Dr. Crisfield, you touched on this earlier. The one thing that I really wanted to have information on is what grade was affected by the COVID outbreak. Is that I don't think that would violate any privacy issues, just because my kids eat lunch with their grade, they play at recess with their grade. And so I just would feel better, and I think parents would too, if we knew what grade level the case took place at. The second thing I wanted to encourage was testing in school of students. I know I would happily sign a thing to let my kids get tested anytime, because parents are struggling whether or not to send their kids to school when they have a cold or allergies, and there's not tests readily available anymore. They're expensive and they're hard to find. The rapid antigen tests are actually quite useful and accurate in telling us viral load. And so if a kid tests negative and they go to school, they don't have enough of the virus to be contagious. And so that's really useful information for parents when making decisions. They don't want to make the wrong decision and put other people at risk, but they also want their child in school. So if the district could help with that in any way, I think we would all be super appreciative. The other thing I wanted to encourage was soon the FDA approval for the emergency use authorization for 5 to 11-year-olds for the COVID vaccine should be coming. And I would love to see the district preemptively set up a clinic where we could get our students vaccinated as soon as possible. And the last thing I wanted to just mention, and this is not COVID related, my kids and I walk to school every day. Am I doing this? Okay. My kids and I walk to school every day, and we love that, and we're so thankful. But there's a street at Mount Pleasant and Hendricks and Knight that is really dangerous, and cars don't stop properly.
Does anyone have their mics on around the room? That may be on me. Thank you.
Okay. So that intersection is just so dangerous, and I would love if a crossing guard could be there, not only for elementary, but middle school kids too. I think sometimes middle school and high school kids, you think they are making good decisions, and they can, but sometimes they're distracted by their phones, and drivers are distracted, and I just think it would help so much. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, let's check the queue on Zoom. Katie, can you see if there are any hands raised?
We have one raised for Amanda.
Okay. Please introduce yourself with your name, municipality, residence, and topic, please.
Hi, my name is Amanda Hunt, and I'm a resident of Whitpain Township. And my topic is just following up on the board meeting from the last board meeting, speech and language services, as well as reading intervention services, and also the use of microphones for the teachers in schools. Good evening. I would like to follow up from the last board meeting regarding the district's mitigation efforts in providing speech language services, as well as pull-out reading intervention due to the current masking requirements. I would like to thank Ms. Walsh for her suggestion at the conclusion of the last meeting regarding the possibility of both the students and interventionists utilizing face shields with distancing measures in place during such services. As I stated at the previous board meeting, local professionals agree that the ability for students and interventionists to see each other's mouths is crucial during these services. Other mitigation efforts could include providing these services outdoors without masks. I would greatly appreciate feedback from the board regarding this. I have also been in contact with several teachers at Stony Creek Elementary School who have purchased their own vocal amplifiers to use during instructional time. Since they seem to find them so helpful, the Home and School Association teacher representative sent a poll to all teachers at Stony Creek regarding the desire for such devices. According to the poll, over 20 staff members at Stony Creek agreed that a voice amplifier would be beneficial to them. The cost of these amplifiers that the teachers have purchased on their own is between $30 and $40. I believe it would be extremely beneficial if the district could provide these devices to any staff member that needs one in order to enhance communication between themselves and their students. According to a local speech and language pathologist, there is concern that teachers may permanently damage their vocal cords over time due to the straining that occurs during instruction with masks. I'm also concerned that children are not able to decipher all instruction clearly during the day due to the muffling effect that masks create. I know these are complex times with complex issues, but working together, we can find creative solutions to maximize the educational experience of our students, teachers, and staff members. Thank you for your time and consideration of these very important issues.
Thank you. Okay, Katie, are there any other raised hands?
No, no other raised hands on Zoom.
All right, thank you. So that takes us to board comment. Any comments from my fellow board members? Sure, Tracy.
Hey, Joe, it's Seppi.
Yeah.
I failed to kind of give a huge shout out to Kristen Rollings. The WSD annual report for 2021 was just finalized, and I believe it's going to be hitting everybody's mailbox soon. I know last year was a really tough year on a number of themes or points. But I feel Kristen did a really nice job of finding all the silver linings that we did have last year. And I want to thank her for all the work that went into it. I still think Wissahickon had a lot of great things to be proud of. And I'm glad we were able to get some of those things accomplished last year. So I meant to bring that up at communications, but sorry, Kristen.
Yes, thanks for that comment, Zephy. And if you were here in person, board members in the room, we actually got a copy of the Wissahickon Silver Linings, and I believe it'll be in people's mailboxes pretty soon. And yes, it does look fantastic, and there's a lot of good news to report. Tracy, I'm sorry, you had a comment as well.
Yeah, well, on the sidetrack, I just received this in my mail today as well, so people should be getting them today, hopefully. I think that's a very good idea that the caller had about the vocal amplifiers. I think that's something that we should look into, especially if they are something that is $30 or $40 per teacher. I think that is just like something really simple that can help tremendously. And I just wanted to say that I thought it was great and exciting that one of our new teachers graduated from Wissahickon, the new high school French teacher. I think that's just great when we have our own students that go off to their lives and do their little college stint, and then they come back home to Wissahickon and want to be a part of the program again at Wissahickon. I just think that says a lot about their time here when they're a student, that they want to come back here and help and teach here. I think that's just a great testament to our school district. And that's it.
Great, thank you.
Oh,
Amy first, then Ron.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Wade and Jerry and Mrs. Venezia for allowing our students at Stony Creek last week to plant some shrubbery around the school. We all had the tour last week and we saw the beautiful addition and how it's coming along. But then later in the week, some of our students planted some shrubbery around the school and it looks really beautiful. So next time you're over there, please check it out. And I really appreciate our administration working to allow our students to be able to participate in that.
Thank you. Ron?
Yeah, I realize we're not supposed to make comments about the statements that are made during the comment section, but
Ron, just to interrupt,
right.
we typically don't want to engage in a back and forth dialogue with
Right.
speakers, but you are free to comment
Right.
on the comments you heard.
But I would like to second or third in this case, the idea of a voice amplifier. I know as a teacher in September, the beginning of the year, it's often a strain on teachers' voices because they've not been trying to speak constantly at the volume needed, and you add a mask, it becomes even more difficult. There are some teachers, you can hear them 2 or 3 rooms away. Some you can barely hear them with their mask and without putting a lot of strain in it. I have a rather sophisticated hearing aid, and one of the adjustments, one of the settings is literally mask that came in very handy for these last 18 months. And for the ability to help our teachers and obviously by helping our teachers, helping our students learn so that the kids don't have to strain as much and as to worry about, did I hear exactly what the teacher was saying? I think it's an investment we can make. And not every teacher needs one. And I think we should make this as a project for those who need it, and certainly to reimburse those who have made the investment because they realized it was necessary for them to do a better job in the classroom. And I would not hesitate to propose a motion for that kind of expenditure.
All right, thank you. Other board members? Alex, are you still around? Any comments before we close out?
I don't have any at this time.
Okay. Well, then can I ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.